And start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the roll call, any regulations of Brad?
Yeah, I haven't heard from him.
Okay. We will continue to move forward. Minutes were distributed, by Jerry and that in package, could you make the decision not to have any from the package? I will, take a motion for approval. Move.
No, I'm sorry.
Is there a second to the minutes?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any changes, comments, modifications? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks very much. Public comment. JT, you are the only member of the public. If you want to raise your hand and we'll speak. If not, we will continue to move forward. In the room, is there anybody in the room that is a member of the public who would like to speak? Good enough. Seeing none, we will continue to move. Chief Johnson, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Thank you for having the fire department come in tonight to discuss this important topic about replacing the ladder truck at the fire department. Everyone should have been distributed a nice little letter I put together explaining where we currently are, where we're headed with the ladder truck, and the end result. In front of me is a couple different things, but part of it is our bid that went out to manufacturers. And a lot of it in the back is the bid response that we received back from Pierce Manufacturing with the rear mount aerial truck that we are looking to purchase to replace our 1999 sup bin mid mount truck. A little history about this. 3 years ago, I came to the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen about putting it on the radar about either refurbishing the ladder truck that we have now or replacing it with two different dollar amounts. Projected 3 years ago, I put in the capital outlay about $2.5 million to replace the ladder truck. And a refurbishment 3 years ago was about $850. So there's a big price difference then. Since we started that process, we've had some repairs on the ladder truck. Some of them were pricey a couple of years ago, $40,000. This year, we're already $20,000 into repairs on it. And they still have some work to still do on it. They're just waiting for parts to come in. To the point now, a refurbishment is well over $1 million, and they can't recertify the ladder, the aerial part of it. It's met the time frame by an FPA in 1901, and they just won't certify it. So it's old equipment. You can put a new frame underneath it, but you're still using the old electronics and the old electrical system, airbag. You wouldn't want to upgrade to the new motor because it's just going to even drive the price even more with all the emissions. So the truck doesn't have a lot of miles on it, or it has hours, but it's more I don't want to say the least run truck, but it doesn't go to all the accidents and everything else like that. What pushes us up to today is if we were to replace the ladder truck with exactly what we had, we're looking anywhere between $2.5 and $2.8 million. I charged the committee of 7 members in the department that we need to be cost effective to the town without sacrificing any ability or training or way we operate in the fire department. We're only going to increase our responses to the town. We're going to be able to get this new truck into tighter areas in town. Over the past 10 years or so, we've seen an increase of smaller driveways, bigger houses being pushed out in the woods, and tighter roads with all the construction. The current ladder truck that we have now is really hard to get into the beach areas and in the tighter driveways. We've noticed a lot of people building bigger houses with tighter driveways with the pillars at the end of the driveway, and you can't get in. So it just sits in the middle of the road. And a couple things with the old one is we have very little ground ladders. We have 7 North Main Street that has come in. We've never really upgraded the ground ladders on this. With the new truck, we'll go from think we're 104 feet of ladders now to over 219 feet of ground ladders. So we're doing our homework to better facilitate the residents of town and that and the businesses. So we put a spec together, really took a look at what was out there and how we would benefit from it. And the committee has decided to go with a rear mount straight stick that's 107 feet long, and not sacrificing any safety features into the truck. So we have side roll airbags, front and side roll airbags. We have a whole complete crash detection system with the aerial. So when it's up and operating, if it senses anything, it stops. So you can't hit anything. It has not security cameras, but backup cameras and aerial cameras built into certain spots. So when you pull up, once you turn the load button on, it will light up the area and show you where the outriggers are gonna go. So you know that you're clear and you're not gonna put it somewhere where you shouldn't. With all of that, it came in at $1,779,000, which we consider a big savings to the town based on where we could have gone and where we ended up. And then as projected in the response that I sent to First Selectman Fortuna and Chairman Carlson about the different lease options and purchase options and prepayment discounts. There's money that can be saved. I know we did that with the engines when we bought them during COVID. I saved a considerable amount. We got a very low interest rate at the time for that, which I think at the time it was worth prepaying for. Since we bought those trucks, one of our trucks is already free based on the price increases that they've had. And that a lot of it is during the pandemic, which has caused a lot of the increases. And we're still seeing the increases. We just, when we went out to bid, right before our bid response was due, the manufacturer announced a 1% price increase. And the dealer that we were working with has agreed not to pass that price increase on to the town, that they are gonna support it and pay for it, not us. So that's really nice of them. They do have another one coming in November and a bigger one coming in February too. So they are projected 1% up to 1% in November, 3 to 6% in February. It's not really set in stone until right before is what the price would be.
So for the purposes of tonight, are you in front of us to ask us for direction? Are you keeping us informed? What would you like from this board tonight?
I would like your guys' approval to really try to move forward with the project and try to find funding of it. And our biggest Achilles heel with any of this tonight is signing the contract. If we sign the contract with the manufacturer, it locks us in and then we don't get hit with the price increases. It freezes the dollar amount. With me tonight, I do have a couple members of the fire department, a couple past chiefs are here, my assistant chief, a captain, and I do have one of our citizens is a taxpayer in town. He's also our Pierce rep, and he worked with us on all this, and he was in working with us about getting the finance options through the bank, PNC Bank. Mr. Chang asking questions, so they put this 9-page flyer together, trying to explain as much information I think that you're trying to find out about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if we sign a contract, it just locks the price. It doesn't go up and they don't have to make any prepayments or anything else like that. And
That's correct, Chief. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is John McNichol. I'm the sales rep for Firematic Supply. We're the Pierce dealer here in Connecticut. I've worked for them for 25 years. The chief asked me if I would be in attendance tonight, just if you had some technical questions about delivery times or any of the logistics to do with purchasing a new ladder truck. I'm not a numbers person, so I would defer everything to PNC or the highly qualified people here on the board. But if you have technical questions or questions about delivery times or any of those type of things, I'd be more than happy to answer your questions.
I have the disadvantage of having spoken to the chief, so I have a little more information than everybody else. And so you've asked the right question, which I think Chief did not mention, but I think it's important for us to know, which is if the green light goes, my understanding is it would be about 4 years before the truck is delivered. Is that correct?
That's correct. Currently, our delivery times for an aerial truck of that type are 48 to 51 months. However, because this is a less complicated piece than the truck that they're actually replacing, we were able to put it in a program and get it delivered in 39 to 42 months. So it speeds it up a little bit, but it may save the town a expense on the other end of trying to keep the old truck together that much longer.
And Chief, 39 months on the old truck is, will we make it?
I hope. I don't wanna say yes, I don't wanna say no, because in Murphy's Law, you say yes, and something
Right.
tomorrow will happen, and then it doesn't. But we've never said, no, let's not fix something based on the budget, with the fire department for, as long as I've been here, for 22 years, 23 years. We've always fixed it when it's had to be fixed, we've always done the repairs, we've never said, no, let's not do it. I think the first year, Mr. Fortuna was selectman, we blew the motor in one of our trucks, and the fire department replaced the motor out of our budget and never came to the Board of Finance for an emergency repair. And we continue to do that throughout. That if anything happens, we fix it in our budget and don't come back and ask for money for anything else like that. So knock on wood, I would really hope that it lasts another 4 years.
Good. Okay, questions from the board for Colonel?
I'm gonna make a comment. So the timing is coincidental, or the timing is somewhat fortuitous, I'll say. So let's call it 3.5, 4 years for delivery. It just so happens that when we purchased the other 2 trucks, we borrowed from ourselves and we're paying off that amount of money from the amount of money we put into, part of the amount of money that we're putting into a capital account. So every year we put about 175, 180, somewhere in there. And that is something that we increased over the first 3-4 years after I became first selectman. It was down to like 75,000, maybe even lower than that. And we increased it every year, and we're at a point right now that those 2 trucks will be paid off in exactly 4 years. Basically, September of 30. If you were to disregard the discount, and I'm not saying do that, but in some sort of theoretical perfect world here, we could sign the contract, take delivery in 3.5 years or so. Even if we took it in 3.5 years, not a big deal, and then pay for this truck in 3.5 years and basically pay the loan off, just like we're doing for the current fire trucks, with the money that we're putting aside in basically a sinking fund for equipment. That is kind of the way, that's just an idea. And if we paid it off at the 1.575 is a prepay now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, it's prepaid, that's if you signed it and prepaid it within a couple days, but they prorate it for every month, whatever, it just comes as a less of a discount. It's not like you don't, if, and a year down the road, if you say I'm gonna prepay it, they'll calculate the money of what you.
Oh, I see.
The finance company, PNC, Mr. Fortuna would pay the full amount up front, and therefore
Right.
you get that interest on the money for that 36 to 40 months. That's the build time.
Do you make monthly payments now while you're waiting for the truck?
We make yearly payments.
Make
make
it
it
a
a
yearly payment while you're waiting for
Yeah.
the truck? You
On
could.
the new ones, we're paying a yearly payment on it. We put $360,000 in down up
Well,
front.
actually, no, we paid for the
Yeah,
trucks.
well, yes, I'm sorry, yeah.
We paid for the trucks and we went negative in that account.
Okay.
So basically, we're just replenishing that account yearly. And around 2030 or so, that account will be net positive.
So we took out a loan for the
we did
trucks.
take out-
We
geez,
took
I
out a
don't
loan
even
for the
remember.
trucks.
I'm
And
sorry,
okay,
I don't remember.
we put aside $176,000 a year into the fire department reserve. And the loan is $107,000. So we still have a little bit of equity every year. So that loan's gonna be paid off in 2030. You have to make it, I have a question. Do you have to choose what finance option you are going to make when you sign the contract?
We do not.
Okay, good.
Right.
We just signed, the contract just is saying that we're committing to it. And they lock the price and they put us in line into production. So the production, the build time, it's not taking them that long to build a truck. It takes them 90 days from start to finish, once the frame rails hit the ground, to build the truck, and then you're out inspecting it. And everything else is just waiting to get in the line to be able to be built.
But I do have a follow-up question to what Leanne just asked. If we sign now,
Yeah.
or you sign now, but we don't have to agree on a finance plan.
Correct.
Do the current proposed finance plans expire 3 years from now when we do decide?
No, that, they would be, we don't know what the rate's gonna be then. So those would be variables. Also, the time frame, you know, between the truck being completed and if you did make some kind of prepayment, that time frame, you would get interest on that money for that period of time. So it's actually very wide open. With the quote from PNC that some of you, I think, have seen, that's, the way it's quoted is there would be a payment due a year from when you sign the contract. And that would be when it initiates. As the chief mentioned, the big thing, as far as the time frame with delivery, if we get the contract signed, it's in process at Pierce and the truck is in the queue to be built. And that's, you know, what we discussed was if you wait, a year or two to start the build, you're still gonna be 3 to 4 years out. And then this truck's gonna be, you know, 33 years old or 34 years old by the time you can replace it.
Eric, do you have a question?
Quick question, with the, talks about the finance options of 3, 5, and 7 years. Does that start when you sign the contract?
The first payment will be due a year from when you sign the contract.
So theoretically, if you chose the 3-year, the 3 payments of $572,000, the truck's paid off by the time you get it,
Correct.
Right.
because it's over a 3-year wait, right?
Which is
So
one
it's-
of the reasons why you get the discount.
There is an option where you can wait according to this thing until delivery, and then we start, and they do know what the payment schedule will be for that. So that would be something that, from our perspective, is attractive in terms of mitigating budget. You know, because we already paid for the other.
That's correct. You could sign a contract when the truck's completed, you could finance that amount at that time. And who knows, the rates may drop and, you know, we don't know what's gonna happen there, but.
So, let me see whether I can circle the wagon. Sounds to me as if what would be the best thing to do would be for this board to go forward and say, yes, sign, we agree, a new ladder truck sometime in that 39 to 48 month horizon is a good idea. Sign the contract. We know that we'll have a financial obligation. We'll leave it in the hands initially between the fire department and the finance department to figure out what the best thing is, and then Leanne can bring a finance plan to us. Does that make sense?
100%.
Rich?
I just asked the next, maybe to the clarification, right? So on page 2, there is, I got this, I haven't had a chance to study this very much, but on page 2, there is a schedule for the apparatus is a enforcer aerial. I don't know my trucks. But on page 3, sort of pretty much in line with what Leanne was asking about, where we don't start the payment until the delivery. And so there's a different schedule there for doing that. But that is for a pumper where the total amount of the truck is $860,000 versus the 1 or it's $1 million, this is 1.7 million, so.
Because it says example numbers.
True, so it'd be, I would like to see what the numbers would be for what the real numbers, it feels like number 2 are real numbers. I would like to see the page number 3 for real numbers.
Wouldn't that be this one down right here? It's just pushed at a different date, correct, down to 23. So it would be, your last column here on page 2, just pushed down to 2030. That first payment will be 266,752.
It's not gonna be that. It's not gonna be that.
No,
It's gonna
that-
be higher than that.
Right, because you're right.
So, but I know what
I
you're saying.
understand.
I know what you're saying, George. I know what you're saying.
Just
Yeah.
nice to get some numbers that are actually what it is. But I
Right.
agree with Bruce's comment that we can sign, so we locked in, but then deciding what we want to do. I
Yeah.
feel like there are a lot of options here.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you should also wait for the board of selectmen to take action on this. Okay, before you sign a
Oh,
contract.
yeah.
Let me ask a question. Do you want, we are, August 19th. From what I recall, you need to sign by sometime in September in order to be able to elect the price before the November next increase. So should we take this step by step, have the board of selectmen recommend something to the board of finance? Your first meeting in September, our first meeting in September, and make it.
You're not appropriating necessarily, so I would actually say that, so this is how I would view this, and I was clearly wrong about 5 minutes ago, so I could be wrong on this, but, I guess interest rates are so low, why wouldn't we have borrowed, right? You know, that's what we were doing with the police cars, but, Board of Selectmen would, consider whether a contract should be signed. The payments for this truck would come out of the sinking fund that has been. It's a designated account for capital equipment like this.
Well, that's one source.
Yeah,
I mean, there's other sources that.
of income, of revenue,
Right.
to pay for this.
Right,
Right,
but we know we have at least one.
but yes, we have one that we know we can pay for this truck over the course of whether it's 7 or 10 years. There's several budget cycles before that. So, I don't know that after the Board of Selectmen says, go ahead and sign the contract, that we need to immediately come back. I don't think this has to go to town meeting, whether we're gonna sign a contract or not. So, I think it's important for this board to have a consensus that we want to move forward. And then the Board of Selectmen can authorize, if it chooses to, a signature on a contract. That's my take.
Okay, I think that's very fair. So my sense, thanks for the heads up. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the information. My sense, unless there's disagreement, is this board is ready, willing, and able to see a contract be signed. And we look forward to understanding what the financing of the truck is. Does anybody disagree? Good.
I'll reach out to Kim from PNC Bank to rerun those numbers starting at 2030. And once I get them, I'll just send them to you guys. I might have it tomorrow, Friday. Thursday.
And we meet,
Everything is.
and we meet on, looks like the 9th next.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, I don't want to, this isn't a finance question, but in your presentation, I don't want to go too far down this tangent. You said people are putting pillars at their end of their driveway, which are hindering your fire trucks to getting close to buildings? or-
Yeah, so there's nothing in zoning that says you can't put a decorative pillar or stonework at the end of your driveway.
That's what I was gonna suggest.
I knew that's
We
where
should
it's
work with, or you should work with building and zoning. You know, otherwise we bring in the bulldozer and we knock the damn thing down. But, you know, if it's hindering fire.
Right.
We could get the engines in, and it's just one thing I didn't mention.
Yeah, and I mean, you can even caveat with any building higher than 2 stories or higher than 1 story, where you would need access for the ladder truck. It's not allowed.
Absolutely. One thing we did really look at with the turning radius of this new truck compared to the old one into what our engines are. And I think we're 9 inches longer in the length of the wheelbase of the ladder truck than we are with the two new engines. And it has the same turning radius. So wherever the engines can go in, this will go right in behind it too. So that was one big thing that we looked at, and that was with driveways and into the beach areas in town and the tight roads. We wanted to make sure that we could get it into anywhere we had to.
Yeah, the beach areas, there's nothing we can do about now,
Yeah.
but we can certainly try to stop people from making it even worse.
Or go over.
Yeah,
Shares are.
agree.
Okay.
It's-
We have a big agenda tonight,
There's,
so no other questions, I'll be able to fun.
So this is.
Chief, you're all set?
Yes, I'm.
Great.
Thank you.
Anytime, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Madam Treasurer.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good night.
Make you ahead of that.
Which one?
All right. I figured I'd let them get going.
Appreciate it.
All right. Okay. So our treasurer report, for July for our new fiscal year 2026. So we'll do our executive summary. So fiscal year to date, for our whole new fiscal year, the town has received revenue 26,211,978, or 49.6% of the total amount of $52,843,405 budgeted for fiscal year 26. When comparing our performance to last fiscal year, we are 1.9% behind this time last year. So next we'll move to the authorized investment section. At the end of July, the town had 53.7 million in its bank accounts. In the last month, the stiff rate has stayed steady at 4.50%, and today it is at 4.41%. And as you all know, Webster gives us the stiff rate in arrears, and their rate last month was 4.48%. So as you can see in the table, we've included the interest income to the short-term cash management section. We've added an additional $1,266,366 for a total of $11,266,366. We initially started investing this money in March of 2022. It was at that time, for those of you that were on the Board of Finance, $8 million that we were investing in March of 2022. Then in January of 2023, the investment committee added an additional $2 million, and we brought it to $10 million, just to give you that historical background. So in 3.5 year period, we have basically, with compound interest and income, we have made basically 12%, which I think has been very good. Any questions there?
The only question I would have is, I appreciate you showing it, but do we have then an account that has $11.2 million in it that is kind of constantly rolling the money over, or is the interest money that we've received elsewhere?
May I answer?
You may,
Madam Treasurer?
yeah.
Okay, so we started off with a principal balance of 8 million and then added 2 million.
Right.
So we have put $10 million into this account. And then we roll them 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 18 months, and then we get the interest and appreciation on them. It's difficult for us to show a month-to-month change on these because they are market value instruments and they're going to go up and they're going to go down, and it would be confusing. But last month, Word says, well, how much interest have we made on it? So at the beginning of this fiscal year, I basically trued it up. I said, all right, how much have all of the gains, the realized gains been? And that is the 11,260,000. So we've had realized interest and gains of 1,266,366.
Okay, appreciate it.
And I will true it up maybe semi-annually. It's, it probably, I did it for the fiscal year, probably should have been done, but at least we can see about where we're going in terms of realized income and appreciation.
Okay. Georgia, you also.
Yeah, I have a question. So related to that, but we clear the revenue into interest that we gain every year as revenue that gets spent as like a surplus. So do you plan to reset it back to 10 million?
No, so this isn't an off budget. It's actually at Morgan Stanley. It is not even, it's not commingled with anything. So we're rolling, it's compounding. So if we had a $1 million bond and it matured to 1.1 million, we put 1.1 million back in and then we get.
Understood. So this is just principle.
This is just the principal
Right,
that we put
understood.
aside
Thank you so much.
in this program.
Understood.
And,
So this is
this,
beyond, so the interest on this payment is beyond this number.
no,
No,
this is all inclusive. So 1 million, like if we just had 1 million, then it grew to 1.1, then we invested that and that grew to 1.3. That's kind of like,
But we count revenue, higher revenue due to interest as part of our surplus.
we do
So
do that.
which gets spent.
It does not get spent. So we have a rainy day fund. We have balances in our bank. And the funds are all commingled.
I see.
So, our investment strategy is threefold. One, we have money in Webster Bank for our operating accounts. That's about $52 million that we have for our whole budget. And then we also put some in the short-term investment fund, which has a little bit longer duration. And then we target about what our rainy day funds are, because those never get spent, and that's about $10 million. And so we put that into this longer term program so that we are investing all along the curve. And there are three kind of separate buckets of money. Now, if we needed it, we would take it. But, we have all of this money in reserves. We have all of the money in off budget funds. So we have more than just our budget on hand.
Exactly.
So
Let me see if so my understanding is the interest versus the short-term cash management doesn't get spent, but the interest revenue that the treasurer reports every month that we collect on these other accounts, that is part of what gets used in the operating budget.
correct, we book it as a general fund revenue.
As revenue, and
Yeah.
then if we have the excess as we do this year, we're spending it. So,
Right.
Correct,
right.
yes.
So just
Yes.
clarification. Okay,
okay,
let's move on.
I don't have too much more. Okay, then we'll move to the pension plan. So at the end of July, we received our report from Morgan Stanley. The town pension plan is up 9.49% fiscal year to date versus its benchmark of 12.14%. And over the 3-year horizon, the town plan has returned 8.53% versus its benchmark of 10.41%. The fire department pension plan is up 9.03% fiscal year to date and has returned 8.43% over the 3-year horizon versus its benchmark of 10.41% as well. So as of July 31, we had total cash balances of 53.7 million, total pension balances of 31.6 million, for total assets under management of 85.3 million. We'll move to page 2 of the treasurer's report, showing the revenue broken out in more detail. Tax revenues were 25,975,500, or 51.3% of the amount budgeted. In terms of local revenues, the town collected $236,479 locally, for a total of 26,211,979, or 49.6%. So interest income for July was $100,658. Harvey's Beach was 49,442, or 65.9% of its budget in 1 month. And what stuck out to me was vendor licenses was $1,150, or 57.5% of its budget as well, which I have no idea what a vendor license was so high. What are those, Carl?
Those are folks who wanna,
Like the solar people who knock on your door?
yes.
Okay, well, they're out there like crazy. That's all I have, guys. It's a quick report.
Questions, Mr. Treasurer? Seeing none, thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna start with fiscal year 25, and just give you the preliminary financial results. Just a quick recap. I know you have the report in front of you. But we do have a surplus of 3.9 million. And when I look at the surplus, I look at it in terms of the revenue surplus and how much, I'll call it an expenditure surplus, how much we didn't spend that was budgeted, and then a breakdown between the Board of Ed and the town. So in terms of revenue surplus, we were just under 2.8 million. We have been talking about this all year long, about how it's difficult to project what we're going to earn in revenues, but we did have a really great year in terms of interest income, as we've just been discussing. Also, we budget 99% for tax collection, and we did go above that as well. And we typically do, and 99% is one of the highest assumption rates in the state of Connecticut. So those two factors and all of the economic activity that we have had has been positive for revenue generation. Next year, we are not including mini golf revenues at all. That was $150,000, about $150,000 this year, so we won't have that. And we also increased our assumption for interest income from $600,000 to $750,000, and increased other items as well. So we did make changes to our revenue assumptions for this fiscal year. The expenditure surplus was $1,090,000, and seems almost 50-50 between the Board of Ed and the town. The total surplus for the town, because we include the revenue surplus in our numbers, was 3.3 million. And for the Board of Ed, it was 548,000, for a total of just under $3.9 million surplus. And in terms of the town, we had two departments, the public safety and public works. Both of those departments had vacancies, and that is responsible for most of the surplus there. So between the two of those departments, that's $500,000 of our surplus. The only department that had went over budget was culture and rec, and that's the library, and that's the park and rec. And as I explained, with mini golf involved, we had excess earnings, and therefore we had to have more staff and things like that. It contribute to that deficit in the budget. Everybody came within their budgeted line item within that 25,000. So we don't have anything that we have to do in terms of Board of Finance actions for their budgets for this year.
And,
Yes.
you know, we have, Chris and Pam here, maybe they answer, but part of the question I have for tonight, you just touched on, so I'm going to raise it, which is in this sheet, you've got education with a 496, 733.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also just mentioned the number that was over 500,000. So what's the difference between those two numbers?
So the Board of Ed, if you turn to the other page, page 1, they had a revenue surplus of 51,551. That's special education, and they use that as part of their overall surplus. They just always have. I guess that you have expenses against the special ed too that you have to cover. So we don't take that into our general fund calculation in terms of surplus. They could spend that money if they had to. Okay,
All right, so the official surplus fund, what of it is the 548?
correct.
Good, thank you.
And then I just wanted to go over a few of the fiscal year end transfers, because these are board finance policies that they will be reported to you. One of them is for the police department, and we transfer for the pistol permits as well as outside services. The pistol permits was 3,220, outside services was 80,212. This year we had a change in policy. Previously, we would take that entire 80,000 and put it back into the police department. This year, we did just the portion of the gasoline budget that would bring it right back to the $40,000. So we transferred 44,481 back into the general fund, and the balance of 35,731 we put into the police vehicle off budget account for future cars. So now we have 201,000 in that fund for the police vehicles. We have the $35,000 transfer that I just mentioned, the outside, what we didn't use for fuel and outside services. We have the 90,000 that we had part of the budget for this year. And then last year, at the end of fiscal year, we transferred 63,000 as part of our surplus into that account. So now we're up to 200,000, a little over 200,000. So that's great. The other one is the youth and family services, and we had to take money, $4,085 out of the income fund and put it in there. We had a revenue. We didn't meet revenue targets by 22,655. We also were under budget from an expenditure standpoint by 18,570. So that difference was transferred, and basically they were short-staffed, so they couldn't earn the revenues and client fees, and we had the lower expense. So that was really a push for that one. Fortunately, we didn't have any major storms that caused us to declare emergency last year. So I just put that in, just to let you know we had no transfers. And then a reminder about the $100,000 park and rec transfer, which has been already taken out of the 3.888 surplus. That's not in there. That was transferred as part of the year-end transactions. So that's all I have for the year-end transfers.
Just one question, on July 31, it says this fund presently has a balance of 669. What is the current balance?
Oh, 729,000. Thank you, Carl. So we made $60,000, from mini golf fees already for fiscal year. For this fiscal year. Summer's the busiest time. Okay, any more questions about last fiscal year?
Actually, a quick question about the mini golf.
Yeah.
And so we had talked about basically funding Parks and Rec $100,000 every year. And then at one point giving them the money from the mini golf. The mini golf, if it hit below 100,000, would we bump it up 100,000 to give 100,000?
That would be a decision for a future Board of Finance.
I see.
If that were coming.
I see.
In other words, if they didn't make the revenue.
Or something happened to the mini golf area.
We'd have to-
and they closed it.
We'd have to look at that
I see.
in budgeting.
And it's never been under 100,000. So we'd have to have a completely rainy summer.
Yeah.
But yes, what Carl said. Okay. All right, fiscal year 26, the first month. Our budget is 52,843,405. The Board of Ed is
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But, when we were booking the revenue in the general fund, we were showing it in the treasurer's report for mini golf.
I know.
Now that we're not booking it, we're not showing it. And could I just ask that we continue to show it, even though, however the right way is, just so we can be tracking what the amount that we are collecting from mini golf?
Sure.
Or whatever the right way is for this board to be informed, that would be helpful.
Okay, sure.
Sorry to interrupt.
You want it back in the revenue, like the line item, even though we're not gonna track it on the sheet.
Right.
Okay, So, our budget's 52,843,000 Board of Ed and the town. Starting with ARPA. So during the month, that should be during the month of June, we had expenditures of just under 70,000. So now we've spent 1,908,888. We purchased the digital signs, so that next year, next month, that's gonna go into closed ARPA appropriations. Just some updates as well. The Acton Public Library generator was installed this week, so that will be paid. And we're gonna make our first payment on Beaver Dam Trail Culvert of about just under $500,000. So, we're gonna be spending this money fast and furious. That's going as planned.
And I went up to that project after work today before this meeting. And the concrete culvert is fully installed. So now it's backfilling, and obviously they have to put the road back at some point. But they've made tremendous progress on that project, and they're gonna most likely wrap that up within the next 30 days. So it's hard to wrap around your head the scope and size of the culvert they put in for this stream that collapsed under the road, but they had to do it and they did it. Anyway, so I went up there. I mean, it's a construction site. I probably wouldn't encourage you to visit, but you can if you do.
Okay, at last month's Board of Finance meeting, you approved two appropriations from capital non-recurring funds, 15,600 for the estuary flooring and 21,500 for repairing the Cape Foundation. Both of those were approved at the August 5th town meeting. Section 2, the cash flow summary. So July is always a very interesting month in terms of cash flow. We, for monthly activities, we received taxes. So we're up $13,000. We received tax money, of course, about 25 million. 5 of that was advanced collections in June. 20 million came in July. And of course, against that, we had $7,000 in expenses, which is typically a lot higher the first month of July.
$7 billion.
Yeah, we prepay a lot. I'm getting there. I know you're gonna ask that.
You said 7,000.
7 million. Oh, 7 million. Yes, excuse me. Capital funds were up 203,000. Again, we had all of our transfers out of the general fund into all of these off-budget accounts. Reserve funds, the same thing. Capital non-recurring, fire department apparatus, etc. Public works. And then the non-major funds, major up 1.7 million for those. We transferred the whole youth and family services budget, 452,000. We paid all of our pension obligations, 747 for the pension fund, $250,000 for fire department. So month of July, very, very active with cash flows coming in from the public and then being transferred from our budget. So all that took place.
We pay one of our debt service payments in.
And we paid debt service too. Yes. Yeah. A third of our debt service actually. So capital outlays, page 2 into page 3. Again, for the whole fiscal year 26, all of the transfers were 921,800. Those have all been made. We have a total in our reserve accounts of just under 4.7 million. And in our municipal reserve fund, about $3.5 million between capital non-recurring, fire apparatus, public works, and the Board of Education, which has $1 million. So that all those transfers have been made and all those projects have been started that were in the budget. Capital expenditures is the next bucket. We haven't spent any money yet, but they will, especially highway and streets, will be starting to spend that money. Our actuarially defined contribution for the town and the pension plan and fire department is below. And then we have our debt service that we look at. It's at the beginning of June. we owed 15.5 million. By the end of June, we owed 13.4. And right now, our debt service budget is just under 2.5 million. We're working on our debt service next year. And obviously for the last page, there wasn't anything major. It's the first one, nothing to report on any of our line items.
Great. Questions from the finance director?
I just have a quick question on the ARPA step. I mean, obviously those are nice round numbers, the beaver dam and the generator. Is there any chance if those, do we have any indication whether those are going to come under budget? And then do we have like a list of things if we do have extra money?
So, I doubt either one will come in $1 under budget.
Okay.
The good news is they won't be over budget, because the projects have gone so smoothly to date, knock on wood. But especially Beaver Dam, which is the larger one, it was a contract price with units. We've already had one change order for a very minor amount, which increased the price slightly. But look, if it's not to the penny, you're right, it'll come back and we'll probably put it into a reserve account, really, because it won't be ARPA money to be spent.
No, because the ARPA team spent all of the principal as well as the interest. And so whatever the balance is, I think the town declares interest and just bring back to the general.
Correct. But probably a month from now, we'll have a pretty good idea.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think we're gonna, looking at these ARPA balances that are outstanding, I don't have a lot of concern because a lot of them are within the town's control, except for Cypress Cemetery, that seems like it has the biggest amount of money, and I know that they got it later in the ARPA process, and they probably are not as used to having a large amount of money like this to administer. Do we have to provide them any level of support from the town to make sure that they get this out and spent?
Yeah, I know, we're almost at 25, right?
Yeah.
So I can, I could put something in, what is it, Torrance that still, I'm not even sure.
I'm not sure what Cypress.
Because it used to be Jim. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. I forget who presented on that. Was it Torrance? Yeah. So I'll just shoot Torrance an email and say, where are you with this?
Yeah, I think the idea was they were gonna be contracting the service, so they need to get it under contract.
When do they have to spend those funds by?
In 10 to 6.
Okay.
No, the end of this year.
No, 27.
26.
So,
Yeah, so there's.
So you got time.
Yeah. Okay, other questions for the finance director? Very good, thank you, Leanne, appreciate it. Let's move right into the auditor recommendation.
Okay. So we did, as I mentioned at last month's meeting, we did an RFP for audit services. It was submitted July 1st. All responses came back in August 1st, and we got one. Mahoney Sable, our existing auditor. And we had the audit selection committee, which was Bruce Carlson, Carl Fortuna, myself, and Pam Listorti. We all agreed that Mahoney Sable is a great auditor. But what we were concerned about was, obviously you do this RFP because we've had them for 10 years. We want to make sure that they're not going to become complacent. And what we decided was that, in fact, there has been a lot of change, but it hasn't been at Mahoney Sable. It's been here at the town and at the Board of Ed, where all of our staff has changed. So, we've had fresh eyes looking at everything. We've had all kinds of implemented all kinds of new systems, which changes the way that we audit everything. So we felt that given all of that change that has occurred, that, and the fact that Mahoney Sable is a very professional organization in here in Connecticut, that we were comfortable with that. So we felt that rebidding it really wouldn't help us. We didn't think we'd get any other responses, by doing it twice. Bruce was, concerned a little bit with the price, wanted to make sure that the price that we were being charged was appropriate. So Carl pulled, some like-sized towns that have the same type of, auditing services as we do, and it came in the ballpark.
Ballpark.
Yeah, it's an interesting range, but we're within the range.
We're within the range, yes. So therefore, the selection committee is recommending to the Board of Finance to approve Mahoney Saybrook as our auditor.
Do we have any idea why we
Yeah.
only had one response? I mean, is there a lack of, is it because we're small and it's not worth it? for
So
them?
I actually popped in on them yesterday.
I heard. I hear everything.
And, just to chit chat a little bit, when they asked me, are you gonna go back out to bid? And I said, that's not our intention. And he said, what's his name?
Mike
Vander,
and
yeah, Mike. Mike V. We'll call him Mike V, stated that they're at capacity right now, and a lot of firms are at capacity. He said that he's being solicited by other towns that would like to bring them on for auditing services, but they can't take them, and they don't wanna, they're not looking to get rid of any clients to take on a different client. So he thinks that a lot of the firms just aren't bidding these, they don't have the capacity to do it at this point, which, that's what he said. But I asked him that question.
So I believe that we need to have a vote from this, correct?
correct.
Yes. So I will move that we approve Mahoney Saybrook as the non-auditor. Is there a second?
Second.
What discussion is there? George?
Quick question. So, so their proposal is a 6-year?
Yes, 3 years with option to renew 3 more years, and you don't have to if you don't want to.
Okay.
You can go out and bid again if you want after 3 years.
Just minor comment, just the number is, the addition on fiscal year 2030 is not correct. But that's just much.
The addition's not correct?
No, that total is not the right total.
Which one?
7750.
775. Just 1 year is incorrect. I may have made a mistake when I was transferring, so.
Eric?
Do we, after the first 3 years, for the option, do we have to have all 3 of the following years, or is it individual years after? You can.
Yeah. But now the reason to do that is just to lock in the price now, so that, we at least have that locked in. We could always, they have 10 more new audit firms coming to the state, then, maybe the pricing would decrease or something. We could go out to bid.
It'll give us a chance to ramp up our municipal auditing firm so that we can be able to bid. Sounds like a great,
But given how, when they're saying they're limited in terms of capacity, and so obviously they're high demand, their rate increase is incredibly reasonable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no brainer.
yeah, like I say, the other towns that responded to, Carl's question about what they were paying. Mahoney Saybrook wasn't the auditor for all of those towns, and yet the audit prices were right within the range. It was just interesting that everybody seemed to be about the same stuff.
Who was the highest? So with your,
This fiscal year versus 5 years from now, but I think it was already over 75,000. Okay, so we have motion second. Any other issue? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Done. Thank you very much. And with that, thank you, Leanne, for everything you've done. We'll see you in just a minute, but before that, we'll ask Chris and Pam if they would like to just talk through the Board of Education general.
That's just because I'll be outside.
Oh, not the chair. Yeah,
So I'll do it.
no, go ahead, take it on.
Okay. Sure, so we'll look like we're the same. Hey,
Okay.
hi, everyone.
Always gotta get that short choke in.
Yeah.
Okay, so floor is yours, if you'd like to make a presentation or a little discussion before any questions.
So thank you, Leanne, pretty much covered everything, but so as you already heard, we have a surplus this year of 400,000 on the expense side, about 500,000 on the expense side, about $50,000 on, you know, really get revenue, but it's our revenue side. That's the excess cost grant for state that again. So that's the state's share for high cost special education. So that came, there's been a lot of discussion statewide about special education costs. That's our share. If you look at the total, about half of that, about $250,000 of that surplus is special education related. So there's about $200,000 in surplus of special education tuition costs. Those are students that are leaving us, going to other districts. That means we're able to bring some of those kids back. And again, the other $50,000 of that is the revenue that we get from the state. It's all included in that number. What we've asked the first selectman and then obviously the board of finance with that, and I'm also cognizant of that was a much larger number last year. So that's heard. Is there's two sort of outstanding things that we're requesting the board of finance to consider putting those off budget account funds. One is our off budget, or I may be using the wrong terminology, I haven't figured it all out yet, but our non-operating budget is our HVAC fund, which is been through discussions before. As you're all aware, we had a very large HVAC project at Goodwin School. What we've discovered is it wasn't necessarily complete. So of that $550,000 in surplus, we're asking to put about $400,000 into the HVAC fund so that we can hopefully complete the HVAC project at Goodwin. Before you ask, there's two sections of Goodwin that weren't part of the original air conditioning project. And they're actually the two largest spaces in the building. Those would be the gym and the cafeteria. So we don't have a definitive price right now, so we have to go through the process again. But Pam's been working on that since probably in the spring at this point. I think probably when I came back from the step up ceremony sweating, but there's no air in here. I thought the building was empty. We left that part out. So we're in the process of doing that, but my understanding how that worked, there's already funds, there's already money in that fund. So if it's more than that, we would have obviously come back and asked if we can pay for that to hopefully complete that project. The other piece is we're requesting $150,000 into the other non-HVAC account. And I know there was a lot of discussion through the budget process this year with regards to playgrounds at Goodwin School. What we're asking to do is not, it's not necessarily what some members of the community came to the public hearing to ask for. The request that at least was presented to us was an additional playground at Goodwin School, not the existing wooden structure that's out in front of the building. What we're proposing is to replace the existing playground at Goodwin School. For those of you who have been there, they understand that it's wood. And I haven't lived at the shore yet, but I know what that large body of water does to wood about a mile away. But it's over 30 years old. It's had a good run. And before we started, we actually looked into putting new surfacing on that playground. Because right now we have approved certified wood chips there currently. But we did look into putting that rubberized surface around it, and it's expensive. It's about $150,000. And even the vendor said there was, do you want to put $150,000 into an old wooden playground? So that we don't believe $150,000 is the cost of replacing. We wanted to start that process of saving toward ultimately. We still have to go through the bidding and all the permits and everything along those lines. But we wanted to start that process and have that conversation with you and the Board of Education of hopefully working towards replacing the large playground there. So those are, it's really all Goodwin related to finish up some existing needs at that building. And if you haven't been there, we've done some upgrades thus far over the summer. Some of you will notice if you drive by, hopefully if you looks a little more like an elementary school now, we put crayons in front of the building. I drove Pam nuts. So the holes on the awning, they were rusted out and just needed a paint job, and in lieu of the paint job, we were able to actually put crayons, and then it came out really nice. So that was our request. I missed something, Bruce, I apologize.
Nope, we'll open up for questions, from the board.
How did it not get air conditioned when this was all happening?
Disclaimer, neither of us really,
I'm not-
I don't know, I think Pam has a better explanation.
So my understanding is when Goodwin had the windows replaced, they knew that the window unit ventilators are attached. So we had to replace not only the windows, but the window unit ventilators that took care of the heat. When they replaced that, being forward thinking, they put in units that could also handle air conditioning. However, not every room in Goodwin has a window unit ventilator. So the air conditioning that was put in only addressed window unit ventilators. So we do have about 9 office rooms that don't have air conditioning. And we have the gym and the cafeteria that don't have air conditioning. So we have a quote for engineering on addressing all remaining spaces. Obviously, there's savings in numbers as opposed to trying to one at a time, try a split unit in those individual rooms. So we're looking to do the rest of it. But that's the reason why, although there was a lot of discussion about air conditioning Goodwin, even I was unaware of the specifics of what was actually getting hooked up. So we want to take care of the rest of it.
Great, I did not realize any of this.
Correct.
Maybe a related question to that. The original cost for the Goodwin was about 1.5 million.
Yes.
It's gonna bring it pretty close to 2 million.
Anyway, I honestly don't, I know.
Oh, right, yeah,
I know just the engineering cost for, I had gotten the first piece before I realized that there were individual rooms that just had literally window air conditioners. I think the cost for engineering was gonna be $40,000. So that's just the engineering and bringing us through the bid process, working with vendors through the bid process. So it's probably gonna be more than that just for the engineering. I honestly don't have a big enough grasp on what the last chunk of money would be.
So what we asking for the fleet side may not even be enough.
Correct.
But just down the road, the middle school needs AC, right? That was bid at, that was estimated around 2.1 at one point.
At that time, and that was done so that we could try and get grant funds.
Right.
But in order to get those grant funds, the town had to commit to the expense. And without having a plan for where that money was gonna come from, we were unable to move forward. So once we get Goodwin taken care of, my plan is to then have the engineering done for the middle school. Get the engineering done, look at what our options are, get some estimates on what those are, and then we would have to look at whatever residual money might be in the HVAC account and what we would need to do to move that forward. Get that done. The next plan would be the high school. It was done in that order because Goodwin had the least amount of air conditioning. Middle school had the next, and so that's why we're doing it in that process.
Is there any value in having them engineer what's left at Goodwin and the middle school at the same time?
I don't know that
I
there'd
don't
be
know
a
if
cost savings because of the different
Different
buildings.
sites, so I don't know, yeah, well, we can certainly ask, I mean, we're gonna have to do them at some point anyway, and so. We're looking at the things that are not necessarily buttoned up at Goodwin and like checking that off. Yeah, this is it, we're done with, we got the
And if-
fences up, we got everything else is sort
And
of.
if it looks like what they're engineering, like we have the funds for and enough to have them engineer a second building. I don't wanna run out of funds to actually air condition Goodwin by engineering a second.
We're close.
This would be the next summer project at Goodwin.
It potentially could be the spring.
The one perk about doing it, so there was this influx of HVAC projects, obviously with the existence of COVID money and the attention everyone was making to air quality. that flooded the market with when it came to vendors. So you couldn't find a vendor to come out and do certain things. Luckily, a lot of those money, as you know tonight, the money was starting to dry out. So we're kind of hoping that the demand on the vendor side is slowing down a little bit, so we'll have more accessibility, but we don't know that right now.
That don't make sense. I was wondering why at the end of the year, the windows are open, the cafeteria fit my son.
It's hot.
Now I get it. I did
Yeah.
not realize there were 11 missing rooms.
This,
And now some of the rooms are small, like small offices,
Yeah,
but yeah, still, yes, unaddressed. So we at least, we stopgapped it. We put window units. They're not ideal, but it's better than nothing. And it's still better than what some of our staff have at the other buildings.
Tim, could you explain how it could potentially be a spring project to finish Goodwin? Unless I just heard that wrong.
No, you didn't hear it wrong.
Cause it seems that we still have to do the engineering and then what is if the
It's a big
engineering
process.
takes up. No, I know, but if that takes up a bunch of money, I'm wondering what the
We
source of
have, I
funds
think we
is.
currently have over $1 million
Oh,
in that
okay.
account. So, okay, so it's going to more than likely cost more than what's coming, what we're requesting to move into the account, but there's already significant funds in there. I think what's in there would be definitely enough to cover finishing Goodwin.
Great, thank you.
That's right. Good question.
but can they do it while kids are in school?
My understanding, my guess would be the only option I could see for the 9 small spaces are split units.
Hmm.
Those can be done one at a time. They're not intrusive. And I think only one of them is in a learning space, so we could rotate people around. And then I believe we would be looking at most likely either a rooftop unit with ductwork between the gym and the cafeteria. Or that unit would have to be on the ground. So it's kind of isolated. So I think it would be, it wouldn't be impossible.
Yeah.
Okay, I have several questions, but I'll get to this one first. So, I appreciate the detailed summary. I appreciate that. So, I mean, clearly the positive numbers are good numbers, the negative numbers are not so good numbers. And so, between repairs and maintenance and construction services combined, it was over almost $500,000 over budget.
Yes, but we had surpluses in other accounts that we were able to use that, so that it's over what was budgeted, but we didn't overspend intentionally.
Right.
Well,
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But my question was this just spent on projects that were needed for fiscal year 25, or did you guys move forward projects that you were anticipating for 26, and you moving forward?
Yes, so when we thought we would have some funding available, we tried to get as many projects that were outstanding done in that fiscal year if we had the funding available to do so. So the thing that may have been scheduled for this particular year, we were able to do during last fiscal year, because we had the funding available to do.
Okay, I missed it, this and that, but essentially what you're saying then is some of the budget item for fiscal year 26 budget has already been.
When they were originally in, but when the budget was reduced, we were able to use some current year funding to offset the budget reduction that was made for this fiscal
year. Again, this is more of a question for Leanne. So right now in the capital outlay, there's $1 million set for Board of Ed.
That's separate. They have another off budget item. I think it's like about $1 million, maybe even $1.3 million is for the HVAC. Yeah.
Thank you.
Chris, following up on George's comment. You were last September, when you were lucky enough to be sitting in that same seat or seat next to him. We were having a conversation about last year. And the one of the questions that I asked specifically was for knowing that these kind of end of year activities may take place, just some informing of the Board of Finance of what the money is being spent on, and not for us to be in an approval, but just for an information. So I was, when I got the sheet and saw that, in fact, again, there are a couple $100,000 over and a couple of line items. I'll make the same request. It would be helpful for us to have, detail about what what the increased dollars were used for. And then, George's question that, okay, then we can see, oh yeah, well, that was a fiscal 26 item that actually got moved into 25 because we had the money. So it's just an information request to keep us informed rather than having to be surprised when we get a sheet like this.
Break that down this time, man. I think it's best if it was last September, I could barely find my car. So I'll take one on the rookie card is over.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why I brought it up when, because I knew you were still searching for various things in the building, and I just wanted to make sure you knew that the request is outstanding, and I'd like
I
to see
think,
that.
one of the things that might have been misunderstood is because we moved forward projects that we had already brought forward for fiscal year 26 and just did them sooner. So the majority of what happened, was those items were literally one by one taken off the list to move forward. So I can look at that. It is a time of year that moves quickly. So I can make the note so we can do our best.
Right, well, I assume, maybe the assumption is wrong, that somewhere in that process, you're informing the Board of Ed. And so, it seems to me it would just be, if you have a memo going to the Board of Ed, that you just, once the Board of Ed approves those expenditures, boom, just forward it on to the Board of Finance. So I'm not asking for more work. My guess is your work is already done. It's just having it within the mentality of making sure that we're informed.
We don't have, we don't have oversight about how you spend that money, right? It's your money, right? So how you spend it, it's just, FYI, I think so. Sure.
Exactly. All right, other questions?
One quick question, if you don't mind. Account number 564, the tuition for VOAG, why is that negative?
Because
More students?
we make an estimate in the fall of, we're gonna assume anyone who's in VOAG, and is not graduating is going to remain, but we don't have a solid idea of how many of our 8th graders are gonna decide to go where. And I think we had gone from having 1 student in VOAG and we had 2 students decide to enroll in VOAG. So that's where that fluctuates up and down. And at the same time, the state was equalizing some tuition.